Act 2, Scene 1. It is the following day on November 19th, and the lights slowly rise on the interior of Marvin's apartment, and no one is seen but only heard. Baxter is in the kitchen, and Marvin is in his bedroom with the door shut. There is jazzy music playing in the kitchen, but not too loud, and just enough volume to be heard. Baxter is wearing an apron as he comes into the room, carrying a square folding card table in the middle of the room, and he begins pulling the collapsible legs down one by one, and he hears Marvin's voice from his bedroom. "Baxter, what time is it?" "The last time I looked, it was 5:53. "Oh, shit. I still have a soap in my hair. Just comb your hair back. It's like bushwhacks. Where do you get these stupid ideas?" "The magazine is at the grocery store." "What time is it now?" "Not a minute more. Don't get romantic." I don't want to be late." When Baxter gets the card table in place, he returns back and forth from the kitchen, setting the table with candlesticks, plates, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, flowers, and 2 folding chairs. "Did I ever tell you about when I met Gloria Swanson at a diner in the early 1950s? "Don't bother me." "Well, she was one of the first great silent screen stars, working with directors like Cecil B. DeMille and Sam Wood. I'm trying to find my underwear. Look under the bed." She was eating a small fruit salad all alone by the window facing 73rd Street. I knew it was her, and I couldn't refrain from walking to her table. She calmly looked up at me with her piercing green eyes, and she softly said, "If you're a reporter, I'm not interested, and be on your way." I nonsensically dribbled something out of my mouth, and she rewarded me, saying, "Have a seat. I've always preferred dining with a handsome young man than being alone." "Baxter, do you know where my toothpaste is?" "Let me get it for you. I thought it was nearly empty, and I used it to wash my rings." Baxter rushes to the kitchen and takes the toothpaste to the bedroom door, with Marvin opening the door only a crack and taking the toothpaste from his hand. "There you go, and happy brushing to you." Baxter continues setting everything just right for Marvin's dinner with Sammy. "Where was I?" "You were sitting in at the table." "Oh, yes." My first impression was her immense curiosity and vibrant intelligence. She brought up the topic of Van Gogh and asked me, "Why do you suppose this brilliant genius lived out his life in absolute obscurity?" I replied, "He was crazy and no one wanted to be around him." She then quickly volleyed, "Half the directors I've worked with were crazy, but great talents often are geniuses in disguise." Marvin opens the bedroom and enters. "What time is it?" "It's 5:56. Do I have to have candles and flowers?" "Of course you do. I'm a romantic, and you're a narrow-minded peasant of goulash and peanuts. How do I look?" "If your mother dressed you, she would say, 'I dress him because he is colorblind.'" Marvin enters the kitchen. "What are you cooking? I wanted spaghetti." "Not on a first date, and I will tell you why. I clearly told you I wanted spaghetti." Calm down. You don't want to be burping at the table, and I will explain. You never want to eat anything on a first date, like pasta sitting in your lap and tomato sauce staining your face, making you look like an Indian on the warpath. What is this then? I'm serving you truffled bay scallops with celery, Paris, and with a bottle of Montagne Rothschild. It must have cost a fortune with the wine and all. Actually, no, because you left your wallet in the kitchen and I couldn't resist. You stole money from me? No, I don't see it that way. I know you would be cheap and would lose Sammy's interest, so thank me for saving your date tonight. I don't know why I'm doing this. Am I crazy? When she sees this ridiculous table with candles and flowers, she's going to laugh. Why did I let you talk me into this? You had the choice. When was the last time you had dinner at a restaurant? Don't bring that up again. I know you liked the frickle on my butt. It was in 1955. Oh, you don't need to drag it up. After your epic swan dive off the Brooklyn Bridge, it put a stop to your dining with your little darlings in restaurants. Aren't I right? What time is it now? It's 5:58 and still ticking. How does my hair look? If I had the choice, I would give you a few curls because wavy hair always makes a man look more intelligent. Why did I ask? What do I say to her? For a start, why don't you say hello? What topic should I bring up? Whatever you do, don't bring up the dead people you write about, because that surely isn't inspirational one bit. Compliment her hair and dress and make her feel wanted. How in the world do I make her feel wanted? It doesn't come from thinking, but it comes from your beating heart, and she will then feel warmly wanted. I can't remember having dinner with anyone. It's been so long. What hand should I hold a fork in? I was raised holding a fork in my left hand and a knife in my right. She will then know you're properly holding them as a gentleman. What do I do if I don't like your scallops? I've never ate them. If you don't, pick up your napkin and pinch your nose and swallow them with a smile on your face. Can't remember being in the company of a woman. If you're drowning in your sweat, I will intervene and save you from looking like a jester who had forgotten how to juggle. There is a knock on the door. Marvin is frozen and whispering. That's her. Of course she is. She is an actress that is never late to step on the stage. You're in no shape to open the door. Go to the kitchen and stay there until I call for you. Go. Marvin walks quickly to the kitchen as Baxter opens the front door. Oh, and who is this? And you, oh, look quite lovely. Come in, and you're so promptly too.
I hope I'm not late.
Right on the mark. Oh, Marvin, we have a guest here. Sammy is wearing a colorful dress with a hemline showing her knees. Baxter comes out of the kitchen, and when seeing her, he is speechless.
Hello, Marvin.
Hello.
Your dining table is lovely.
It is? What he means to say is you're quite tasteful when seeing excellence, don't you, Marvin? I suppose. Well, why don't you two sit and be comfortable? Sammy, sit here, and Marvin, take the other chair. I hope you have an appetite, Sammy, because it is absolutely delicious. Oh, off to the kitchen I go, and I certainly hope your rehearsal today went wonderfully.
Thank you. We are struggling with our lines because the playwright keeps editing here and there, but we're making progress, I guess.
That is good to hear. Excuse me. Baxter enters the kitchen, leaving Marvin and Sammy sitting quietly. Romantic violin music is heard from the kitchen at low volume.
Oh my, and music too.
Yes, it's a surprise.
Do you often dine like this?
Not really. It was Baxter's idea. Baxter enters and he lights the candles on the table. Would you care to have a glass of wine before I serve your dinner?
After today's rehearsal, I would love some, thank you.
Baxter picks up the wine bottle and pours it into their glasses. Marvin looks like a frightened man in a fire looking for the exit door. I hope you enjoy the music. Where did it come from? I purchased a small record player and disc at Bertle's music store, and it was only half the original price.
That sounds thrifty, don't you think, Marvin?
I suppose. His descriptions are usually not lengthy for being a writer. Well, I will leave you now to talk a bit and get to know each other better. Just holler if you need me. Baxter enters into the kitchen, and Marvin and Sammy sit quietly sipping their wine. Thank you for coming.
I'm glad to be here.
You are?
Why shouldn't I be?
We hardly know each other, especially after having our confrontation the other day.
Did you forget we're supposed to be good neighbors now?
No, I haven't forgotten that, but it seems strange somehow, don't you think?
I suppose it is. Do I make you feel uncomfortable?
No, well, just a little, I guess.
Why?
I have to be honest too, Will.
What would that be?
It has been 8 years since dining with a woman.
Oh, that long?
Yes.
Well, then I'm honored.
You are?
Yes. It's not often meeting men who are not afraid to be honest.
Baxter enters carrying 2 dinner plates on a tray. Hot off the stove, and I don't want to see any crumbs left on your plates.
It looks delicious.
I'm waiting for my compliment, Marvin. I've never seen a plate of food like this before. Is that a compliment or a criticism?
I think he sees neither, and he is only overwhelmed.
Well, she came to your rescue, and I'll leave it just like that. There is a knock on the front door, and Baxter opens it and sees George standing there. Oh, and who might that be? Is Marvin here? Yes. Hello, George. Come in. George enters. What is it, George? I didn't mean to intrude, but I need a favor. What? I need help bringing Mother's new bed into Siddy's home. As you can see, I'm having a dinner. May I enter this discussion? I will help you, George. It's heavy. Are you sure? I don't exactly have spaghetti strings for muscles, and I'm stronger than you might think. Well, if you're up for it, let's go then, and get it over with. Rightio. Marvin, if you both want second servings, I put it in the oven. What are you eating? Ask Baxter. It's his creation. I'll be happy to, but let's be off, George, and I'll tell you the recipe while we go down the stairway. It is a popular dish of truffle bay scallops with celery puree, and you first take fresh green celery stalks, long and firm, and chop them carefully at the very same length to make them all looking wonderfully balanced in the puree sauce. Marvin and Sammy looked down at their plates.
Let me take a bite first.
Sammy takes a fork and takes a bite. Well?
It does look delicious, but it is a little salty. With a sip of wine, it will be quite tasty, actually.
You're braver than I.
Why haven't you gotten out much? It's fun eating new foods and going to different restaurants.
Sammy takes steady bites while Marvin pushes the food on his plate with his fork. I once had an accident.
How?
I was standing on the Brooklyn Bridge on a rainy night, and I slipped and hit my head against the metal railing.
Were you injured?
At first, I stood up and didn't see any blood, so I felt I was lucky, and 2 days later I went to the hospital, and the doctors told me that I had broken 2 vertebrae discs in my neck.
Oh. Were you able to walk?
My legs weren't injured, and I could walk, but I didn't see what was coming my way, and soon a flood of horrible symptoms attacked my neck and head.
Do you mind me asking what your symptoms were?
I had phobias that I never knew existed. There was acrophobia that kept me from climbing to heights, and aerophobia keeping me from traveling on commercial flights, and claustrophobia had me fearful when being alone, and what kept me sequestered here from crowded spaces was claustrophobia.
Oh, even now?
Yes, yeah. A few of the phobias eventually went away, but I've learned to go above the pain of the others that stayed.
Well, wouldn't an operation help?
The doctors told me that my injury was inoperative, and I would just have to do my best to cope with the pain and the fears.
Well, are you afraid of being here?
Marvin looks at Sammy and studies in her eyes.
I once had vertigo when I was younger, when my ears became infected. I clearly remember the discomfort I had then. I couldn't walk or stand, and I was terribly frightened that I would have to live like this for the rest of my life. I would lay in bed and cry because I wasn't able to play with my friends anymore. I soon started reading books and imagining what my life would be like if I was healthy once more. I was alone and not like others, and it was only me knowing what I was going through. What I did learn, though, was who I truly was. I saw things in a different way that others didn't, and I promised to myself if I ever walked again, I would do something special for others. And that date did come when I walked again and became an actress standing on the theater stage.
Well, You, you walked as straight as an arrow now.
Yes, and I know a little of what you must be going through. Why were you on the Brooklyn Bridge in the rain that night?
Marvin looks down and he takes a deep breath. I was drunk. Not just drunk, but overly drunk. I can't really remember why I got out of the taxi on the bridge. It was my opening night for my new play I wrote.
You wrote a play?
Yes, many plays. It was my new play, Raindrops Upside Down, and I meant for it to be a comedy, but overnight it turned into a drama. Audiences always have the last word, and I was greatly depressed that night.
Why were you depressed? Did they not applaud?
Oh, on the contrary, it was a roaring applause from the audience. But that wasn't the problem I felt.
Well, what was it?
It had nothing to do with the play, but it was what the producer said to me in the backstage wings as the audience was frantically clapping.
What did the producer say?
He said my name was in the newspapers, and the theater was closing down my production after the opening night.
Why?
My name was printed alongside other writers and directors who were accused of being communists. You probably don't know anything about Senator McCarthy's investigation in 1955 when he was forcing American actors, writers, and directors out of work in motion pictures and theater stages. I happened to be one of those who got the boot. The theater owner didn't want to have protesters holding signs outside his theater box office screaming, "It's a communist play and communist playwright."
They can't do that in America. What about your freedom, laws, and your defense? Didn't anyone defend you?
No one came to my rescue. I couldn't even get a high school drama class to stage any of my plays after that.
Were you a communist?
No. But I did once go to a communist meeting with a friend of mine, and later on, my name came up in the Foley Square trial in 1949. I wasn't a communist then or now.
How did the McCarthy investigation get your name and information?
The FBI already knew my name from the Foley Square trial, and later on they knocked on my mother's door looking for me, and they asked her questions regarding my past involvement with the Communist Party.
Well, what did she say?
She apparently let them into her home, and she gave them coffee and cookies while telling them everything I had shared to her about that night when I went to the communist meeting hall. One thing and another led my name being funneled up in the line into the McCarthy investigation, and my name was put in black ink in the newspapers in 1955.
She surely must have not known what had happened to you. She couldn't have, could she?
But she did, and my career was over. I walked out of the theater that night, hearing the applause, knowing the theater doors had shut my Raindrops Upside Down production forever. I didn't have an umbrella, and I whistled down a taxi that rainy night. All the rest is a fog to me, and it changed my entire life.
With you being closed up in your apartment isn't the kind of life you should want. You know that. I can see it in your eyes. Would you like a little more wine? Because I do.
I suppose.
Will you do me a favor?
Sure, what?
Promise me you won't ever say "I suppose" again. It's a meaningless thing to say, and I know you have stronger opinions than that.
I'll try.
Good. I will hold you to it, Mr. Porter. Now, how do we get you out of your apartment?
Why?
You don't want to be stuffed in your apartment for the rest of your life, do you?
I feel safer here.
You're not going to let a little phobia rob you of adventures outside.
I don't look it that way.
How do you look at it?
I don't trust people.
Why?
I don't know.
I think you do.
But I don't. I've fought over these last 8 years and I haven't found any resolves, not one.
You were hurt, Marvin, terribly hurt, and you had no one to help you. You lost confidence in others. Isn't that the real reason you have sheltered yourself in here? You do know it, but you only don't want to face the horrible pain you had on the Brooklyn Bridge that night, isn't it? You don't want to be hurt again, isn't that right?
I lost everything that night. There was no one to take my hand and pat me on my back. I was alone and my career was stripped from me. I tried to bring it back, but it kept slipping away from me somehow. I finally just gave up. I didn't know where to go. I boarded everyone out of my life here because I didn't ever want to ever be hurt again by people I loved.
Is that why you pushed your mother away from you?
Especially my mother. And she couldn't save me from my pains.
She didn't know, Marvin. She couldn't stop what was happening to you. No one could. You need to let go of your pain because that is what's holding you down from living a happy life again. I want you to take a walk with me.
I can't.
Yes, you can. We're going to walk down that street of your neighborhood and look up into the sky and see the stars with the wind blowing in your hair, Marvin. That is what we're going to do. You need to be brave, and I won't let go of you because we will be hand in hand together. Is that okay with you, Marvin? Get your jacket and I'll get mine because we're taking a walk together, and I know you will love it, Marvin. I promise you.
Marvin goes into his bedroom and comes out wearing a jacket and prepares to exit. Marvin looks over at the table. What about the food in the oven?
It's not going anywhere. Don't worry about it. There's a park close by with bright street lights radiating upon the trees, making them look magical. Do you feel all right?
I suppose.
You can't say that, remember?
I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Marvin moves to the front door and opens it wide. You go first and lead the way. Within 15 seconds or less, Baxter and George enter into the apartment, seeing the abandoned dining table. Marvin! Sammy! George knocks on the bedroom door and enters. Marvin? They're not in there. If they were, what a surprise would that be? And they wouldn't be doing laundry now. George takes a closer look of the food on the plates. I'm a little hungry. Is there any more of this? Why, yes. It's in the oven, and I'll be right back. Baxter picks up the 2 plates on the dining table and carrying them into the kitchen, and George walks over to the piano, and his fingers hit a few piano keys. Do you play? No, I wanted to once. What stopped you? Life stopped me. Baxter enters carrying 2 clean white glasses in one hand and places a plate of food on the table. He pours wine in both glasses. How did life stop you? I wasn't the apple in my father's eye. That is a very sad, poetic verse. And is there any more? Yeah, but it's in the past. George starts eating and Baxter sips his wine. What was your father like? You know something? You're damn nosy. You know that? Not really. We're only having a conversation, aren't we? No. It's more like an interrogation. I ask you a question, and you answer me, and then we switch around, and that is the democratic way, don't you think? I'm a Republican. Oh, that explains it. How does it taste? It tastes better than it looks. Republicans, I guess, aren't all that bad after all. Since when does scallops become political? Everything is political, and your father was too. And he probably voted for Richard Nixon. Am I right? You're being a pest, you know. Yes, he hated JFK. He despised his family because they were wealthier than him, and you had to know him to understand his ways. Whoa, what were his ways? He was quiet most of the time. But after he had a few shots of Jack Daniels, he became loud, and he was a bitter man. He thought he was always right, and my poor mother couldn't get a word in otherwise. Because the more she tried, he only just got a little louder. Marvin and I would be lying in bed at night, hearing their arguments from the kitchen, and she soon would run into their bedroom crying, and he would beat at the door, cursing her as we covered our ears trembling. Marvin never told me any of this. I haven't talked about it for many, many years either. Perhaps it is time to talk, don't you think? Without my mother, it would have been unbearable. How did he treat you? I remember the day I came home after school and saw a piano in the dining room. My mother rented it and put her arms around me, saying she wanted me to learn how to play. My father soon came home and saw me sitting at the piano, and he said, "What the hell is that? No son of mine is going to be playing a goddamn piano." The piano was gone the next day. Did you say anything to him? Yeah, I did. But he never listened, and he said to me, "Find a job that pays, and all piano players are fags." What a bugger to say to you. One of my teachers got me into their choir class. Short time later, my mother dragged our neighbors down to the school to hear me sing. You're a singer? Was a singer, but only for a very short time. Did you enjoy singing? Yeah, but I was no Frank Sinatra. Did you ever sing solo? Yeah, a few times, but it wasn't anything special. How did the audience react when you sang? Well, all right, I guess, but they didn't throw any fruit or vegetables at me. The thing that mattered most to me was not embarrassing my mother in front of her friends. I'm working on a musical score for a play, and I would like to hear you sing a song for me. I'm the wrong guy. I'm no singer. Really, I haven't sung for years. I'm just a cop. That's what I am. You said your mother bragged about you. Yeah, that was then. But now I sound like a frog. Singing is like riding a bicycle. You never forget it. Pedaling is one thing and singing is another. What is there to lose? There is no audience to boo you here. Baxter, I don't even sing in the shower. Let me sing a few lyrics for you. It goes something like this. I stand here with thoughts to clear. I never thought that things could change between us, Arthur. We were young and full of life and full of dreams we acted out together, Arthur. Our hearts they bled as one, while our souls reached out to catch the sun. We had all the time to spare. We did not care. We did not care. I can't. You're the talent, and I'm a cop. What is wrong being a cop? I didn't say that. Your tone does. I didn't say anything like that. Oh, but you did. You're not happy. I don't have to be happy to be a cop. See? You admit it. Are you telling me that I don't feel good being a cop? Yes, precisely. I see it in your eyes and in your tone of words when you say, cop. Why are we talking about this? We go from singing to me to being a cop. Why? Do you like arresting homosexuals? If they're breaking the law, I do my job. My question is, do you like arresting homosexuals? What kind of question is that? Do you like arresting men who dance and kiss each other? No! Why don't you? I don't know. I just don't like it. Why, George? I do like arresting criminals who steal or kill. But rounding up men holding hands and crying on their way to the city jail, it isn't my favorite thing to do. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a cop. When your father told you to get a job that pays and not to be a pianist for fear of being a fag, that probably is why you're not a happy cop. Are you calling me a fag? What do you think, George? Am I? The front door suddenly opens with Marvin and Sammy laughing, and their clothes are wet from the rain outside. Let me go get a towel. Marvin goes into the bathroom.
Hello, Baxter. Hello, George.
Did you both jump off the Brooklyn Bridge?
No, just a surprising downpour, and we had fun splashing in the gutter all the way home.
Marvin enters and hands Sammy a towel. He And I'll get some hot coffee to warm you up. Marvin enters into the kitchen.
It looks like you were hungry, George. Did you like it?
I was so hungry I can't remember what it tasted like. Well, someone appreciated my delicious dinner. What took you so long?
We took a lovely walk through the park before the sky opened up with a tsunami.
Marvin enters the room. I see you're eating, George. As you can see, I was hungry, and since when do you go outside for a walk? What's hard about it, George? Is there a law about it? There is knocking on the front door, and Marvin opens it, seeing City. Marvin, it's your mother, and an ambulance is coming. Why? She's on the floor and having trouble breathing. Please hurry. George jumps up, rushing through the door, and Marvin grabs Sammy's hand, pulling her through the door, leaving Baxter dumbfounded and troubled as he quickly picks up the dishes, wine bottle, glasses, and folding table and taking them into the kitchen. Soon Marvin returns and calmly looks at Baxter. Baxter, you're part of our family. I want you with us. Will you please come with me? I feel honored. Most definitely, my friend. They exit together from the apartment, and the lights slowly fade as the room goes to black. Act 2, Scene 2. It is 3 days later on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, and the lights slowly rise with classical music playing, and Baxter carrying the folding card table to the middle of the room. He is dressed in a dark blue suit, and he returns to the kitchen bringing out small plates of turkey and ham, along with crackers and bread, with carrots and celery, with a bowl of blue cheese dip. He also brings wine glasses and bottles of wine to the table. There is a knock on the front door, and he opens it, seeing George standing in the doorway, wearing a black suit and tie. Hello, George. I thought you wouldn't come. I changed my mind. George walks to the window, looking out at the Brooklyn Bridge. Baxter goes to the kitchen and turns the music off and stands in the kitchen doorway looking at him. Are the rest of them on their way? Yeah, but I don't think I'll stay long. It's not a happy day for me. Baxter walks to him. It's a beautiful view, isn't it? It's just a bridge. It's more than a bridge, George. From where I come from, there wasn't anything like it at all. When I first arrived, I went to a bookstore and bought a book about the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. Did you know that it was the longest suspension bridge in the world at that time between Manhattan and Brooklyn? No, I never knew that. They started building it on January 2nd, 1870, and it took them 13 years to finish it. Isn't that something to admire? It's just a bridge. It's just steel, bolts, and concrete over water. Who cares? I do. I admire that work. To get from here to there, and there it is, still standing proudly for us to see. Don't you think it was worth it? I hate going to Manhattan. I like Brooklyn more. At that moment, there is a knock on the door. Baxter opens it, seeing City wearing a dark dress. I'm not a Girl Scout selling cookies. Aren't you going to ask me in? Your beautiful dress is absolutely stunning, City. Don't flatter me. Those days are all over. Can I get you a glass of wine? Do you have white wine? No, only red. Red wine makes me drunk. I'll pass. Hello, George. Hello, City. What are you looking at? Are you counting pigeons? Axe Baxter. He's the authority of the Brooklyn Bridge. Am I missing something? He doesn't like Manhattan. I don't either. I hope you have the blue cheese dip in the refrigerator because I don't want to be sitting on the toilet all day. City picks up a carrot and dips it in the blue cheese. Don't fry it. It was chilled overnight. My stomach thanks you. It was a lovely eulogy for your mother, wasn't it, George? Yes, it was. City walks to George, and Baxter walks into the kitchen. I remember whenever I came over to your house to visit with your mother, you two boys were always dressed in clean clothes, and they were ironed. She must have been chained to the laundry room. Do you remember that? No, if you say so. Did I ever tell you how I first met your mother? I can't recall. What? Do you have Alzheimer's? Well, anyway, I like telling this story. Baxter, come back in here. You might like it. And where's Marvin? Marvin and Sammy wanted to walk home after the funeral. Well, I always liked a big audience, but I guess you two will do. It was in 1922 when I went to an audition for a stupid play. But all great actors started out that way too, and that was when I saw Ethel standing on the stage. She was holding a script, and I could see she was nervous. The poor thing, and I later found out it was her first audition. The director didn't help her any, especially when she got lost reading from the script. And he said, "Little lady, if I had a mentally challenged character in the play, you'd have the part." That can't be true, really? Would I lie about a thing like that? Of course not. It's true. She came off the stage in tears and headed for the stage door, and without even thinking, I followed her out into the alley and asked, "Are you all right? It's just a play, just a stupid play. Don't waste any tears out of your pretty eyes. That director doesn't know what he's doing." She wanted to be an actress? What's wrong with that, George? You make it sound like she was a cheap hooker on 44th Street. I didn't mean it that way. It just surprised me. There were a lot of things you and Marvin didn't know about my friend Ethel. Your mother was a very bright woman, and even smarter than me, and that's saying a lot. Whenever I visited your house, Ethel had two personalities. Whenever your father was around, she acted stupid, making him looking smarter than her. But when we went shopping together, she was a genius. When I first met her, she curiously asked me what I did for employment. I told her I was an actor, and she riddled off numerous names of authors and playwrights that she had read. We talked about the theater, and I was amazed by her knowledge, even though she never performed on a theater stage. As soon as Harry entered the room, she immediately became dumb and introverted. I saw the pain in her eyes whenever he was around. Marvin and Sammy enter quietly through the front door. "How was your walk?" "It was great. You came back just in time. We're sharing memories of Ethel. Do you have any?" Not at the moment." "How about you, George? You're his older brother." Where to begin? "Don't leave us hanging. She was our mother. She was the best thing in my life when growing up. She never said a harsh word to me, never. And she never looked down at my shortcomings. She was a great cook. and she was my best friend. She once asked me why I didn't look for a pretty girl to marry and have children with. I looked at her eyes and I started to cry. She wrapped her arms around me and I said, I was afraid I would be just like my father was to her. Your mother once told me that Marvin and you were the gems of her life, and she was so proud of both of you. She said George was the worker and her little Marvin was the thinker in the family. She had it all wrong. It was you, George, that did all the thinking. You looked after her and me. Thanks for the compliment, but Baxter's right. Mother worshipped you. You made her so proud. I turned out to be a loser. You weren't like father. You have brains and write beautifully. You spoke intelligently and did all the important things he didn't, and Mother admired that in you. I turned my back on her. She always told me you would come to your senses one day. But I didn't. The day before she died, she looked up at me and said, Marvin is finally coming home. He has a girlfriend now, and he kissed me on my forehead.
On the way to the hospital, in the ambulance, she grabbed my hand, whispering to me, don't let my Marvin fall again.
Marvin lowers his head and starts to cry as George embraces him. The lights slowly dim and go to black. Act 2, Scene 3. It's November 23rd and the lights rise on the food, glasses, and wine bottles. The bedroom door opens with Marvin walking into the room wearing a bathrobe, and he studies the card table and begins taking the wine bottles to the kitchen. As he comes back to clear off the rest of the items, Sammy steps out of the bedroom wearing her wrinkled dress, ruffled hair, and bare feet.
Good morning.
Marvin stops and with a smile looks at her. Good morning.
What time is it? We shouldn't have drunk all that wine. I have a rehearsal at 11:30 this morning. Let me help you.
I can do it.
Together we cut the time in half.
Did you sleep well?
Yes, after you fell asleep. I read your play and got drowsy, only seeing your first scene.
It's no wonder you got bored.
No, it's very good, and I caught my imagination from the start. Can I take it with me? I want to finish reading it.
You might as well keep it. No one will ever stage it.
Don't punish yourself like that, Marvin. It's really good. And do you want to know something? Last night you weren't bad at all.
It's sweet of you to say after my being a rusty faucet for many years.
Don't say that.
It's true.
It's not true because it's not fair of you to criticize what I enjoyed.
Did you remember seeing Baxter and George leaving last night?
After they stumbled into the bedroom, they told me you were going to get drunk.
The front door opens and Baxter entering and seeing them. Hello!
Good morning.
I just got back in time to cook a fabulous breakfast for the three of us.
I can't. Marvin, I need to freshen up for my rehearsal, and I'll see you later in the day.
Sammy goes into the bedroom. Where have you been? You never will believe it. Try me. Well, we first went to Ronnie's bar, but it was a little too tame for our taste. And then George flagged down a taxi, and it took us to Tony Bonner's Super Club. We shouldn't have drunk that much, and his head fell down onto my shoulder. Before we knew it, there was a badge in our faces and we were arrested and taken to jail. We were accused of homosexual lewd behavior. But George talked to the judge and we were allowed to go out free. What a fun night it was. Sammy comes out of the bedroom holding Marvin's play script in her hand.
Okay, I'm off. Enjoy your breakfast. And Marvin, I would like to take you to a new restaurant in the village tonight. It will be fun. Wish me well, because we're running the first act today. Bye.
Sammy kisses Marvin on his cheek, and she exits. Aren't you the happy man these days? I plead the fifth, and not a single word. Don't ruin my fun. What took place last night? Don't be a pervert. That's me, but I was right, wasn't I? She adores you. Hardly, I believe. I'm happy for you, Marvin. It has been a long time, hasn't it? Yes. Is that all you have to say? This is all new to me, and I don't know where it's leading me to. That's fair enough. I'll let you off the hook this time. What is it going to be? How about having 3 eggs, hashed potatoes, and 2 slices of sourdough bread? Do whatever you want, but I'm jumping into the shower now. Marvin moves to the bedroom door. Why are you in a rush to wash her lovely scent off you? Is that what I'm doing? Perhaps, but don't ever doubt her fondness for you. You think so? Yes, and I'm always right. At the very same time, they smile together and Baxter enters the kitchen and Marvin enters his bedroom and the lights slowly dim to black. 3 weeks have passed by and it is now December. The sound of typing is heard as the light slowly rises up, showing Marvin typing away on his obituaries. Marvin stops typing. He stands up and rips the page from the typewriter carriage and tears it in half and then throws it into the garbage pail under the desk. He walks to the window, looking out at the Brooklyn Bridge, and soon knocking is heard at his front door. When opening, he sees Sadie Bloomfeld standing there, and she enters the room. How are you doing? I don't know. It's just another day, Sadie. George told me that your mother's house has been sold. Yes. He told me just yesterday. Good. That should give you some financial security for a while. Are you still taking walks outside? Yes, but not as much as before. Have you heard from her? I received a letter last week from her, and apparently she's in another production in London. It was a pity that her production folded, and having her father passing away a short time later, or she may have stayed here with you. Do you miss her? Yes. I do. Is there any hope for you to get together again? I'm here and she's there and I really don't know, Sadie. How do you feel about George moving to Florida? Do you miss him? Yes. Especially on Thursdays when he used to bring me my groceries. He told me he always wanted to go fishing in warm waters, and when he made his decision to stop being a cop, he looked 10 years younger to me. He took care of Ethel all those years, and now he is free from that responsibility. What are you going to do now? I really can't say. Baxter told me he got a contract acting out in California in a television show. Yes, he told me he played the role of a museum curator that sold the paintings on the black market in the Perry Mason show. It wasn't Hamlet for him, but it was Hollywood where he wanted to be. Why I came here today, Marvin, was to tell you that I put my apartment building up for sale. I'm getting up in age, and there are places I want to see and do. Whoever buys this old place, I'll make sure your apartment is secured. I just want you to know that. I appreciate that, City. You've been a good surrogate mother to me. It might take months or even only weeks before it's sold. If you choose to move elsewhere, let me know so I can help you relocate anywhere you go. It's funny how life goes. Just when you think you're on the top of the world, and then you soon find yourself at the bottom of a well. We've all been there once, but we're fighters. Never give up. There's always a tomorrow, and don't ever forget that. And by the way, the plumber will be coming tomorrow morning to inspect all of the water pipes. Is that going to be a problem? No, not at all. What time? Around 10 o'clock. That's not a problem. Would you like to take a walk with me this afternoon? I would love to. I always like walking with a handsome man. What time? 12:30? 12:30 it is. I'll get dressed in my colorful jumpsuit just for you. See you then. City begins to open the front door, but stops and turns around pulling an envelope from her jacket. Oh, I almost forgot. The mailman gave me this letter for you yesterday. Who from? It was from Sammy. City hands it to Marvin. Open it up. I would like to hear what she has to say. Marvin opens up the envelope and takes the letter out, and he first studies its content, and then he begins to read the letter. Marvin, I have missed you so very much, and I can't describe how lonely it has been without you and our lovely walks through the park. My father's funeral went well, and my family came closer as ever before. I'm currently playing in the role of Cicely again in Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest in London. Please let Baxter know that he will be with me when I'm standing on the stage. Your last letter informing me of what George is now doing, I'm so happy that he finally has found a new life. But what I'm writing mostly to you about is the terrific news that your beautiful play has just been received by the artistic committee to produce your play within their next season. They also agreed to finance your flight. They also agreed to finance your flight and rooming here in London so you can be engaged throughout the rehearsal of your play. I'm so proud of you. This will bring us together again, and most importantly, a new life for me. This will bring us together again, and most importantly, a new life for you and me, my love. Marvin stops reading and he is overwhelmed with emotion. City wraps her arms around him as they stand silently together as the lights slowly dim to black. The end.